I want to speak about how our comfort zones destroy us. How our comfort zones destroy us. And to go on what she spoke on, which is powerful, is that I was thinking today, I was just contemplating today, meditating on what Yah's holy season. And like she said, he doesn't do it for no reason. Everything is strategically placed there for us to understand and grasp something. And I don't think many of us grasp it. It's because sometimes we just attach or just do things because others are doing it. And sometimes that suffocates our growth because we lack understanding. But Yah says, get knowledge and wisdom, but above all things, get understanding. So he gave us a time of the blowing, and we blew a trumpet to alert us of something coming, a day of judgment, a day of atonement, a day of looking for a covering, and Yah being our covering. And we take them 10 days, and we reflect on our lives and the things that we need to change in our lives. And change is always good. And then a day comes when we atone and we fast and we mourn and we afflict our soul and we recondition ourselves and we allow that fast to allow the sirtuins to kick in and start to redevelop our DNA strands and put them back together in a place where we are recreating ourselves. And we ask Yah for forgiveness. But then after that follows a day or a week of Sukkot. And Sukkot is a temporary shelter where God puts us back into the land. He puts us back into the earth. He puts us back into nature. Out of the comfort zones of our own lives where we start to dwell in tents and don't have all the amenities that we have today or yesterday. But he removes us from our comfort zones. So now we reset ourselves and we atone for our way of life. Then we elevate ourselves and place ourselves in the hands of the Creator. Because when we out here, we in the hands of the Creator, right? Perfectly placed in the hands of the Creator. And then he closes off the feast. After 7 days of dwelling in the tents, he gives us Shmini Atzeret. Anybody know what Atzeret means? It's not a knock, huh? It's not a knock. But that means our whole life we just been doing things to do it. And sometimes we haven't reflected on what we're doing. We say, what's that? Shmini Atzeret. What that mean? It's good. It's beautiful. But there's something in our consciousness that we have to understand. Shmini Atzeret means a lot of things, but when I go into the meeting, I want you to understand that Moses wasn't Moses until Moses stepped out of his comfort zone. He had everything. He was a high-ranking official in Egypt. He didn't become the man that we know today that changed the face of the earth until he was stripped of everything and forced out into the wilderness. Abraham was not Abraham until he was told, Lech Lekah, go from your family. And he had to leave everything that was comfortable to him. Jacob wasn't Jacob until he had to flee from Esau and go into a land that he did not know and people he did not understand, but they were related to him, but he couldn't relate with them. Joseph did not become Joseph until he had to leave his brothers. And why do I say all of this? Because comfort is not what makes you grow. Comfort in some ways stagnates you. When we go into the book of Genesis, we read about this serpent. And the serpent begins to define man. It tells man what he is and what he isn't and how to become what he can, but not listening to the word of Yah when Yah already defined you as being in his image. The serpent tells you in order to become like God, you have to do things against God. Now a snake is man's ancient enemy, and this is why the writer of Genesis put in his heart to place the snake, because what are we scared of out here? Snakes. When you're taking out the comfort of your own place, when you're in the wilderness, when you're out on the unknown, you start to be scared of snakes or stepping in places where you could be bitten and things will take your life. But a snake is supposed to play on your predatory senses. So when you read the story and you hear a snake, they're telling you something, you should automatically fear these things. You're supposed to fear what he's saying. So the snake represents this level of fear. But what does nakash really mean? And that's the Hebrew word we use for snake. It means a whisperer. Remember in Genesis, the snake started to define us, but every man has this whisper inside of his mind that confines him into a place where he cannot grow. I remember a lot of y'all had a little fun off my uncomfort, but I went on to in Orlando, I went into the slingshot. Now in my mind, I'm scared of heights. I cannot stand heights. But son said, just go. I paid to be scared to death. So I went on a slingshot, right? And I'm sitting there, and it's going down. It's cranking you down, about ready to catapult you into the, and it's the largest one in America, about to catapult you into the sky. And then right before they send me, I'm like, how did I get here? How did I get here? And all of a sudden, but it was a slight fear that told you, oh no, here we go. So now I'm being catapulted into the sky, into the heavens. And all I see is like the world. Like I see every single thing. And it doesn't feel like you strapped to nothing. It's like it's not like a roller coaster where you're going like this and that. It's just like the sling just flies you up in the sky. And I'm just going and I'm going. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like I cannot believe this. And then I start to come down and I'm like, I'm falling. But then that adrenaline starts to kick in. And then when I landed, I'm like, I want to go again.
Oh, no.
But I experienced flying. I experienced being free. I experienced something when I let fear go. We as individuals have to let fear go. Shmini, I said it. What does Shmini mean?
Hey.
8. Anybody know what 8 symbolizes? Infinity. What else? Rebirth. I said it comes from the word atzar. It means to restrain, to refrain from yourself. So now if we look into the Hebrew, the 8th letter is what? Come on, Aleph, Shin, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Waw, Zayin, huh? Ket. Ket is a wall, but at the same time it's a ladder. It's something that refrains you or have constraints upon you, but it's also the same thing that you can get over. So when you in Shmini Atzedek, you're talking about infinity and rebirth from the things that refrain you in life. So when you were so comfortable in your house and Yah put you out in that wilderness, he's redeveloping you. He's giving you a new birth. He's giving you a new life. And that allows me to go into the understanding of Nehemiah. And Nehemiah means what? Anybody? I know I'm asking too many questions, right? Nehemiah means Yah is my comfort. But Yah is unknowing. Yah is something that you really can't predict. It's the unpredictable. But that's where your comfort really lies. But we have a false sense of comfort. And we have 3 levels of different type of people. And one of these types are people that are in a stage of what we call arrested development and are stagnated. And where does stagnation come from? Stagnation comes from you being constrained by multiple views or opinions that people place in your life. People put multiple fears in your life. Oh, you can't do this. Like she spoke earlier, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. So you're stagnated because you don't believe what you can do when God put you in a place to do it. So you're in a state of arrested development, meaning your development is stagnated, it's constrained, it's refrained. So Shmini Atzedek is the rebirth or something that's getting you out of being constrained. When you said, I can't sleep outside. I can't be one with, I'm scared of bugs. You had to go out there, out of your comfort zone, and dwell amongst nature. So now Yah is training you, and he's giving you something special. And there's a second level, because out of the people that are stagnated or in the form of arrested development, there goes the people that are falling under being comfortable and order. So there's another people that just do life. They go life. They're happy with their job. They're not happy with their job, but they continue to do the job over and over again because they need order, and the order is constraining them and not allowing them to grow, but they're doing it. How many times you've been in a job and you know that you could have got a better job, or you could pursue your own business, but that job was just so comfortable because you're used to getting that money every paycheck. And you know the job is not good and people treating you bad, and you accept being treated bad because it's comfortable. My boss ain't nothing. He get on my nerves. And you go every day because you're comfortable with being paid. But what happens? Why didn't you go on a limb to create your own business? It was that fear. And if I could share a story, Nasi, about of something that you done to dispel fear. Business.
I don't even know what you're about to say, but I trust you. Go
All right,
ahead.
hallelujah. All right, so
Bank account statement says.
we were talking about Nasik Rob started out as working for somebody who didn't appreciate his worth. And he worked hard and brought revenue into the business, and the guy didn't give him what he was worth or what he felt he deserved. So you know what he did? Create his own business. But comfort would have left you there with mistreatment and being depressed and sad. But he said, hell, I can do this myself. And what happened? The other guy went out of business. You see how it is? Because it's only an illusion that we're trapped in, and sometimes we think that we have to work for other people because we have so much fear that people told us that we can't do it. We can't do this. And sometimes we start to look at how hard we work for other people. See, your own personal business would never work. And I would say that. I don't like using that word, but I say would never work until you work just as hard as you were working for that other person for your own personal business. If you was clocking in 40 hours, you better clock in 40 hours. See, some of us, this is what we do. We give ourselves 5 hours a week on our own personal business and say, we went out on the limb to go for our own personal business. No, you did not. You need to put in that own 40 hours and push, just like you push for another business. And just like you made them successful, you will be successful. But it's fear. And the third level, the third person who is Nehemiah or Nehemiah is that person who knows that Yah is their comfort, and Yah is the unknown and unpredictability. He's the things that you can't even predict. You don't even know what's going on. But guess what? It's uncomfortable that you can't predict it, right? It's uncomfortable. When you out here, you don't know what's going to go on. When you're in your house, you got a whole standard set up. You got a routine that you go through. You ever went on vacation, or you ever been in your house and you pray a certain time of day, then when you go to another state and you don't do the same things you do? Because you created a new comfort zone. But it's that fear of unpredictability which gives me the insight on why Elijah was so sad when he destroyed all the prophets of Baal. Because in truth, nobody really wants to be in a stage of unpredictability because it's not comfortable. Nobody wants to be in the realm of the unknown because it's not comfortable. But Yah has blessings outside of that realm. And Yah says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. So the things that we start to think and the things that we place upon ourselves are not Yah's thoughts. If you trust in him, you're going to start thinking different, and you're going to get out of the ways that you do things over and over again. You're going to be a whole different person. But we're scared of being a different person. We're scared of growing. And this is a common scenario in our life because most of us are in this place of comfort or stagnant or arrested development, and here lies apathy and comfort. And apathy is the lack of enthusiasm or the lack of inspiration you have in your life. How many of us are there? A lot of us are there. We are in that place. Okay.
So you're saying that fear makes people make themselves comfortable in a situation, or are they like interchangeable?
They're interchangeable. Fear is actually motivation too. So you can look at it from two sides of a coin. But fear actually, to a weak person, it stagnates them. Like perfect example, there was the movie called I forgot the name of the movie, but the person they were in a community similar to this, and they told them beyond the trees were demons and monsters. So the people wanted to flee, but they never fled because they believed beyond the trees were monsters. But as soon as one guy ran out there, he ran beyond the trees and he seen a whole city, a civilization, freeway, highway.
It's like Plato's thing, the cave.
Yep. So it's a created illusion that stops you. You're never going to get rid of fear. Fear is a part of life that starts to play into you, and it's an obstacle that you have to overcome. Once you get over one fear, there's another fear that's going to open up because you're starting to expand and grow. So don't say here, I'm not going to give you the disbelief that you're not going to be fearful of things, because that would be wrong. But it's when you conquer that fear, you step into that fear. And just like when somebody grabs your child and they're about to destroy them and you don't even know that person and look like they're about to harm them, that fear go out the window, correct? It doesn't matter no more. So it means that when you value or love something, fear is just a temporary obstacle. So if you value and love your life, then you have to overcome these obstacles of fear. You know, and with this apathy, you start to feel uninspired, emotionally drained, and lack of direction. How many years we spent not knowing where we were going? Aren't we still in that, most of us? Like, what am I here for? What's my purpose? I'm still trying to find myself. I'm still trying to grow. I'm not ready yet. I'm trying to develop. We're still looking for that because that means that we're overwhelmed by the whisperer, the Nakash. The one that's telling us, you can't do this. You can't be there. You can't do this. In our mind, and we tell ourselves every day, you know, life is like getting in the pool, right? Anybody ever got in the pool? First time you dip your foot in there, you're like, oh, it's cool. But what happens when you just go for it and just jump in there? You get shocked real quick, woo! And then after what, 2 minutes, it's what? It's normal. It's normal. So that all shock that was too cold for you to get in, after a while you begin to adapt and you begin to adjust and you begin to grow. At first, as a person, you have to begin to identify your goals and understand your purpose. Identify your goals. I ask everybody to take at least 1 minute, 60 seconds to identify what's your goal and what's your purpose. If you never ask yourself that question, ask yourself that for now. And I'll give you 1 minute to consider it. And when you come up with an answer, and if you come up with an answer and you like to share, raise your hand, please. Just raise your hand if you got an answer, and I'll identify you and I'll call you when it's time. Hallelujah. You want to share?
Yeah, lead the youth.
Lead the youth. So now he has a goal. You ever had a goal and a purpose and you were doing something and things seemed so bad, but something clicked in your head and said, God didn't bring me here to fail. Yeah, because you have a goal. So like, it's pointless to bring me this far if I'm gonna fail. See, that's something that start to click in your mind and start to inspire you to give you more drive no matter what is coming your way. And he said to lead the youth. And that's a powerful thing. And our goal, and part of our goal is a general goal, but it's to be restorers of the breach. And that's something that always stands out to me, the restorers of the breach. Something that breached our spirit, our soul, our family, that we have to restore and fix. But it gives us a goal and purpose because sometimes the things that we hate so much is inside of our family that we start to fight against it or fight for it. And just like a person child dies of cancer, they become an advocate for fighting cancer. So now we have to redirect ourselves and understand our purpose, that there's something that breached our family that we're fighting for in order to restore these things. And in the second rule of thermodynamics, it teaches us that if information and energy is not placed in something, it will eventually decay or deteriorate or fall apart. And that's kind of what we were talking about in the entropy reduction trainer, which is Earth that we know it today, is that we're trying to reduce the world from falling into chaos. So now we understand these rules and we understand these regulations, and that's why it's told in us in Isaiah 58:12 about restoring the breach. But then you read about Nehemiah, and we talk about this week, when Nehemiah went back into a city, he gave up being a person that was a cupbearer, almost the second and highest ranking official in Egypt. In Persia. And he gave all that up to go tend to his people who were struggling, who were afflicted. And he went there and he seen all the oppression that was cast on his people by his own people. And Nehemiah was bold as a lion and didn't care. Even when the people, the Samaritans that mimicked us around there, were plotting against him. But what is a breach? A breach is something that is broken, or a wall that is broken into, or something that penetrates the hedges. As a farmer, as a person that's into war, you know that once that wall is penetrated, you got to repair that, or forever adversity will start coming in there and the enemy will start coming in there. And in Job 1:10, it starts to speak to us, and it tells us that God put hedges around Job. He put barriers around Job. So if we know that God put barriers around the righteous, why do we fear? But we have to be able to identify the breach that happened into us, or the breach that was broken, that was torn through our walls. And our walls is our spirituality. Our walls is our mind and our spirit and our soul that works together in apposition and not opposition to create such a divine being as we are. We read in Genesis 4:7 where it talks about sin crouches at the door. But what is sin waiting for? That breach. It's waiting for that one single breach as an individual. But you have to fortify yourself, and fortify yourself in Yah, which is the unknown, and go out there. Start to make yourself uncomfortable in different areas, because making yourself uncomfortable really feels like you don't want to do it, or it could be stressing sometimes and cause anxiety. But when you realize what it's really doing, you start to transform that energy and place it into something powerful, because that's only the serpent or the Nakas working against you. He's telling you that you ain't supposed to feel right growing. You ain't supposed to do this or do that. And it causes that depression in your mind. Mosai talks about showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep his commandments, but also putting iniquity into the third or fourth generation of them that hate me. And we were the people that hated Yah. We detested the Creator. So there's things in our family that's passed down from generation to generation that we have to be able to identify that we're no longer going to do this. We're about to fix this up and patch this up right now. I cannot make the same mistakes my father has made, but I can build from his foundation. You cannot make the same mistakes your mother has made, but you can build from her positive foundation. You have to be able to identify and say, I'm not doing this right here because my mother and my grandmother did it. My father and my grandfather did this, and this is what held them back. And now I'm going to patch this up. So let me speak to my family. Let's hold a meeting. All of us, we've fallen a victim to the same thing over and over again. What do you mean? I'm not like you. You're not like me. We have similarities, and we're carrying on these things that are not productive for our family and the nature of who we are as individuals. So as restorers of the breach, we have to be able to identify that we have to get out of the comfort zone of our own genes and genetics to do something different. Nehemiah did so many things. I want to read 2 quotes. And I want you to understand that when you get out the comfort zone, which is a kind of like a raggedy or something that's off-tuned. It's like a drum that's not tuned right. When you get out of that comfort zone, you start to step into the harmony of the universe. And once you step into the harmony of the universe, you start to realize and become awakened or woke to what's going on in life and how you can tap into your full potential as an individual. I want to do the quote, or use a quote from Lao Tzu, which is like a famous Asian philosopher, because it's real powerful. It goes like this: life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let the reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward, whatever way they like. So it's saying don't resist the changes. There's going to be spontaneous changes. Don't fight the changes, because you have to adapt to the changes. Any business that want to stay alive, they have to fight the same changes. The second rule of thermodynamics says everything has to be fed information or energy. If you have a building and you're not restoring it or putting effort and energy to keep it, maintain it, then it's going to fall apart. If you have a software system, if you're not feeding it new information, it's going to become obsolete. And sometimes we're stuck in our times, or we're stuck in generations that wasn't productive, and we have to remove ourselves and get out of it in order to create new system and continue to feed ourselves new information and repair that which is broken. But we have to discover what's broken. There's another statement that says that at the end of your comfort zone, life begins. And when I was on that slingshot, I realized that I feared something that shouldn't have been feared. But when I came down, I enjoyed it. I was feeling exhilarated. I had a new mind. I understood it. And to speak to the children, I share this too because, you know, my children got me on a game called Clash of Clans. And sometimes when you consistently do the same thing over and over again, you're going to have the same result. So I would attack bases and I would just hit, just put it like that. And just hopefully that it'll work. And I mix it up with different characters a little bit, but I realized that I was being impatient. And so I realized that, hey, if you take your time and create a real strategy, you can start beating the stuff that you couldn't beat before. And it just dawned on me yesterday when I'm sitting there cooking. I'm like, wow. Because sometimes we're rushing because we are used to just being there or existing and rushing into things and not being patient and taking time to step outside yourself and realize that your tactics are not working. But it hurts when you don't believe that you're winning. Now, I'm going to use the 5 steps of Nehemiah on how you survive outside your comfort zone. And I want to use Nehemiah, the 6th chapter. Step 1, understand that just as you change, adversity changes its approach. So when Nehemiah was in the land, the people were going to attack him with military strategy. But then they realized that wasn't going to work, so they invited Nehemiah to come to a meeting with them. And they invited him 4 times, and Nehemiah declined every single time. So their approach was different. When you get out your comfort zone, there's not going to be the same attack at you. Adversity is smart. It's wise. It changes as you change. And he's always going to be there because if adversity wasn't there, you wouldn't grow. So he's almost like your friend, but your enemy. Right. Tom could have killed Jerry a long time ago. Many times. There was a time Tom had Jerry, and he was like, nah. Why? Because he didn't have that adversity. Without that adversity, it wouldn't be fun. There wouldn't be no Tom and Jerry. You wouldn't have no episodes. It'll be over with. But your growth is predicated upon the adversity in your life. 2, do not jeopardize the goal and avoid the snares of others. Do not jeopardize the goal and avoid the snares of others. So he had to realize that, hey, this was a snare. But he's not going to jeopardize the goal. He's not going to change. He had a goal to go after. Don't let that stuff sidetrack you. Oh, you seen what they said about you? Nah, I don't care. They said this. Because why? Somebody's trying to place a whisperer in your head. Somebody's trying to put something in your mind and Nakash in your mind. So when you're trying to go forward, you start disbelieving yourself. And then when you disbelieve yourself, you have that lack of inspiration. And then that person that put that thing on Facebook about you won. Because they used a serpent and sent it your way. 3, pay attention to the details and you will begin to have more clarity. Pay attention to the details. But see, when you won and you start becoming harmonious with God, everything becomes clear to you. See, at the time of Nehemiah was sent letters, and he had to really realize that these letters were not official. They weren't really coming from the kindness of somebody's heart. So they tried to say that Nehemiah was trying to place himself as king and revolt against the Persian Empire because he was sent by the king of Persia. So they had to play that wedge between them. So the satraps of Persia had to say that Nehemiah is going to buck against you. He's going to become a king, and he's going to build up everything and rebel against you. And Nehemiah said, these are your words. You created this from your heart. They sent him a letter. But there's a difference. In Eastern Asia, in Western Asia, a scroll is sent by being sealed up by both ends. In Eastern Asia is sealed by the middle with ink placed on it and a signet placed on it. And you've seen that before. And that signet starts to become hard, and it allows it to be where it doesn't unravel itself. And then if you're a person who they respect, they send it in a nice fancy bag with a nice ribbon on it. If you're somebody who's the wretched of the earth or detestable by them, they just give you the scroll. So Nehemiah might just receive that scroll and seen that scroll and be like, yo, They don't have no respect for me. This is foolishness. This is not even coming from a dignitary, because if it was coming from Persia or coming from them, I would understand this to be more respect than this, and they don't have no respect. See, you got to realize people say things. See, people don't really respect you. They play the game to respect you, only to get in your head and to sidetrack you. Most people only attach onto your journey to get where you at and kick you off where you need to get off at and where they want you off at. This is something that we have to realize. So pay attention to details. Clarity is one thing. And this is what I always tell people. Ask why a person says something they're saying. Always ask why. You can get caught in the emotion, oh, this person said this, a person said that. When you ask why, you start to say, I see why that person did that. That wasn't evil. No, that was righteous. He was trying to do this. Oh, he was trying to do that. She was trying to do this. She was trying, oh, no, she was being evil. Always ask why. Right? And 4, step away from that which has been compromised and remember the importance of the greater goal. Step away from that which has been compromised and remain focused on the greater goal. Why? Shemaiah invited Nehemiah over. And Shemaiah was Nehemiah's close friend. And he said, hey, they're going to try to kill you tonight. Why don't you run and hide in the temple, and then we'll get you out of here. Nehemiah said, who I look like running inside of a temple and hiding for my life as if I don't have a goal sent by Yah. He said, I'm not going anywhere. He said, in fact, I think Sanballat and Geshem paid you to tell me this. So sometimes when the world compromises those that are around you, you might have to step away from them in order for you to grow and develop. Because when they're too compromised, they're only working for somebody else. And some people work for other people and don't even know they're working for other people. And this is what we got to realize. If something is compromised in your life and you know it, identify it, step away from it for a second, and allow it to go. Because it's only going to hinder you. This system has compromised a lot of us. And y'all watch these shows all the time about the zombies. They don't know. Once you come into their place, they will know, where you from? They got this whole barrier, a place where it's all blocked off and they don't allow nobody in. Where you from? We want to check you, make sure you haven't been bitten. Make sure you haven't been compromised. But in truth, they're telling you the compromise of a system. A system infected them to allow them to think a certain way where they don't even have thoughts of their own. And they're not going after their comfort zone, but they just work and do for others. And the last is stand confident. People fear confidence. When you need that time off for your work and you go in there and you say, hey boss, I don't mean to disturb you, but I need the Sabbath song. The Sabbath, I never heard about. Get out there and work, man. You a funny dude, man. Go ahead, man. Go ahead. And you go out there, but you say, hey, man, I need the Sabbath off, and I'm letting you know. And also, I'm going to take what's the name off because I needed to go see my thing. I'm going to go knock this out real quick, get this done for you, make sure everything's smooth. You got to have a confidence when you speak to people because people fear confidence. Even if they don't believe you and you speak so hard, they're like, dang, this boy is confident. This boy talking with confidence. Man, he might believe this. You know, even fighting don't even never get to fighting really sometimes. Somebody say, oh, I'm going to knock you out. You be like, no, you wait. I'm going to knock you out. Cold, I'll knock you out so fast. You be like, dang, you really going to do all that to me? You start believing it because he confident. Like, dang, what, you been practicing something, jujitsu or something? What? You start to think in your mind, like, maybe this person is doing. Always step into a situation confident. Always step into a situation confident. But beware of those that are compromised because those, they'll fall a victim. And you know coming here that we started out with a bunch of people. But then as we started moving more, people fell off. But it's just a growth process. Certain things start to happen. And people are not bad, they're not evil, they're not wicked. It's just a development stage. And thank God for it. It happens. Praise Yah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.